Thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Sue Montgomery, and I'm one of Rolling Meadow Library's reference librarians. And tonight, I'll share some fun things to know about Portugal and all the great travel resources the Rolling Meadows Library has made available to you. Between the books and the DVDs right here, and all the travel resources you can visit online, it's a snap to learn about any destination. You can delve as deep as you have time for, or just give yourself an overview of any place in the world when you start in our amazing travel collection of books, movies, and online resources. We subscribe to a multitude of online services. I'll be telling you about them all later. On your computer or one of ours, you definitely want to go to ricksteves.com and watch some of his videos. I got a lot of information for this talk from Rick Steves' travel talks on his website and from our library's Rick Steves DVDs containing Portugal travel information. I put a couple of them over on the table. And we have a lot of travel books about Portugal and its different regions, and most of them are on the table too. The other fun thing over there is a whole bunch of amazing recipes from Portugal. We actually have 3 Portuguese cookbooks, who knew, right, in the library, and I was surprised, and just thumbing through them and looking at the pictures, I just start drooling, they all look so wonderful. So, and those are on the table too. So tonight, I'll talk about some highlights, sites, and cool things to do on your next trip to Portugal. This is the Portuguese flag. Its shields represent victories over the Moors, and the yellow ribbon-like web represents a navigational instrument called an armillary sphere. Armillary sphere. There's a real, actual armillary sphere. Portuguese navigators used armillary spheres and the stars to help navigate across oceans and establish trade routes all over the world. The flag's a salute to the age of discoveries, when explorers from Portugal opened large swaths of the world to the people of Europe. Portugal is fairly small as countries go, a little bit smaller in both size and population than Illinois. Total population is about 10 million people. As a country, it's friendly and relatively inexpensive. The official language is Portuguese, and English, not Spanish, is the second most common language. As a matter of fact, you should not try to communicate with Portuguese natives in Spanish. They hate that. They have a long-standing hatred of Spain, though it shares its northern and eastern borders and the land known as the Iberian Peninsula with Spain. The Atlantic Ocean makes up the western and southern borders. Portuguese temperatures are always moderate by Illinois standards. The north tends to be more temperate year-round, and the south, while pleasant in the winter, can be sweltering in the summer. Weather-wise, spring and fall are definitely the best times to visit. It's a totally marine-oriented country. Most people and most of its larger cities are along the Atlantic coast. Fishing and marine jobs are Portugal's main occupations. The capital is Lisbon on the river Tejo inlet, just off the Atlantic coast. As a visitor, you'll probably start your explorations there. Interestingly, Portugal is on the same time zone as England, Greenwich Mean Time, and that's only 4 hours ahead of the U.S.'s Eastern Time Zone. To give you a taste of Portugal, we'll begin tonight's program with some tastes that you'll enjoy when you visit Portugal. Cod appetizers are a favorite. Portuguese enjoy hundreds of different cod recipes. These crispy cod fritters are one of the most beloved Portuguese national dishes. They're made of dried cod and potatoes, plus onions, parsley, eggs, and spices. When dining out in Portugal, appetizers are often brought to your table automatically, like a gift, but they are not free. So, if you don't want to be billed for them later, send them back right now. It'd be awful tempting though, wouldn't it? All that wonderful seafood. Bom appetit. That's Portuguese for bon appetit. When in Portugal, you're sure to enjoy the wonderful local foods flavored with ingredients and spices from India, Africa, the Far East, and Brazil, the countries visited by 15th century maritime explorers. This is piri-piri chicken. Piri-piri is a uniquely Portuguese sauce made from crushed African chili and used to flavor chicken, shrimp, and pork. And I noticed there's some piri-piri recipes over there in those cookbooks, so feel free to browse through. Air-cured ham, presunto, is another Portuguese specialty. It's served thinly sliced and is very much like Italian prosciutto. I don't know if I say that right, prosciutto? Maybe the very favorite Portuguese food, as I said before, is dried cod, called bacalhau, followed closely by grilled sardines, and a tomato-based fish stew called calderada. It might contain several kinds of fish, plus onions, potatoes, tomatoes, and maybe green peppers, and then it's seasoned with garlic, bay leaf, and parsley.
Their fish stew is really good.
It looks amazing. It sounds wonderful.
They do wonderful things with fish.
I know, here we don't think of cod as much of anything. It's kind of boring, but evidently they know some really great ways to cook it.
Mm-hmm.
Doing this program makes me just want to get on a plane and go visit. Here's something really interesting that I never heard of before. Gooseneck barnacles. They're a salty Portuguese delicacy that I've never encountered anywhere in our country, but they're a favorite bar snack, sold all along the coast from April to September. The brave folks that collect the barnacles find them high up on rocky promontories above the Atlantic, where the waves and currents are fierce. They're expensive because it's so dangerous to harvest them, and you should definitely try them anyways, despite the price. You just crack them open to free up the edible part, and then pull out the meat from the shell and enjoy. Behind the photo of the two men up in the upper left corner, you can see the kind of rocky cliffs that they grow on. So that's why it's a little hard to collect them. Gooseneck barnacles. Regional wines, and of course Portuguese port wine, the country's namesake, are standard everywhere. Green wine, or vinho verde, is another Portuguese favorite. It's a tasty young Portuguese wine, unique to Portugal. Vinho verde is picked, bottled, and served without aging. You wonder how that would taste too much different than grape juice. I don't know. We'll find out. And custard tarts are a favorite dessert pastry. And these particular ones are the favorites of all the dessert pastries, and they're called panache de Belém, and were invented in a Lisbon bakery. They're popular everywhere in Portugal. That bakery makes thousands every day, totally by hand. They've been making the top secret recipe since 1837. Wherever you go, try and seek out the local pastry. Various areas have their very own specialties, which include a white bean tart in Nazar, and a sweet egg pastry in Coimbra. And of course, various local eateries. You don't need expensive restaurants to get a great taste of Portugal. The land that is Portugal today has been overtaken many times through the ages. The Romans briefly ruled much of the area from about 200 to 600 AD. To enrich their wealth, the Romans established quite a mining industry there and built many structures, some of which still stand. This mosaic is from the House of the Fountains Villa in Coimbra, that's hard to say, Coimbra, the best preserved Roman city in Portugal. It's actually quite a lot of buildings in Coimbra that you can see that were built in the Roman days. I can't even imagine going to see a building that was built, locally 200 years ago. I mean, not 200 years AD, right? It's just like, it's so many thousands of years ago. It's crazy. But throughout Portugal, you can see remnants of Roman baths, temples, bridges, roads, arenas, theaters, and even homes. Roman coins and ceramics have also been widely found. But the Romans were ultimately conquered by a group of Germanic tribes called the Goths, and the Goths ruled Portugal from the 400s until the early 700s. Then, in the early 700s, the Goths were defeated by well-armed Moors who crossed into Portugal's far southern tip from Africa. Settlement by the Moors dramatically changed Portuguese history. They brought beautiful architecture and influenced the way lots of buildings look and still look today. You can see them throughout the country. I think the Moors were another thing I didn't really know much about until I started doing this program. Had you guys ever heard of the Moors? It's just not a word we hear very often. This magnificent monument to the discoveries is in Lisbon on the northern bank of the Tejo River. It depicts a caravel, a small, fast sailing ship carrying a parade of rulers, voyagers, mapmakers, artists, scientists, and missionaries from Portugal's age of discovery. At its prow is Portugal's Prince Henry the Navigator. He's holding a miniature caravel. He headed the nation and its ambitious overseas discoveries and explorations as Portuguese mariners opened new trade routes throughout the 1400s. The wealth they gathered made Lisbon one of Europe's wealthiest cities. In the 1700s, gold and diamonds from Brazil, one of Portugal's colonies over in the New World, made Lisbon even wealthier. Here's a better picture. These are the figures that the other picture looked kind of blurry with. My next slide actually names the figures, but we're not going to dwell on that because we don't know any of them anyways. But there's 16 on one side, and you can kind of see Prince Henry up at the very front with his ship in his hand, his mini ship in his hand, and then there he is again, and this is the other side, 16 more. There's one woman actually represented, which is King Henry's mom, Queen Philippa. Their names may not be familiar to us, but they're all heroes of Portugal's maritime history. Sometimes they call King Henry, and sometimes Prince Henry. I guess it was because he started so young. He was only 21, I think, when he attained the throne. On the pavement just in front of the monument, where I kind of circled it in that inset, you will find the Mapa de Mundi, a giant marble map of the world. It's hard to get from the insert how big it is, but if you look closely at that messy looking picture that's big, those are all people standing on it, so it's pretty huge, right? And it's made of marble, and it was a gift from another country. I think Brazil gave it to Lisbon. Like I said, Lisbon is the capital, and it has 4 districts. The monument to discoveries that we were just looking at is in the Belém district. Several other monuments, both ancient and modern, are also in the Belém district. That's the lower one on that map. This is the 4-story tower of Belém, built in the 1500s to protect Lisbon from English and Dutch pirates. The building style is called Manueline and features carved ropes, armillary spheres, Christian crosses, and things from nature. You can get a feel for its size when you notice the tiny person regarding it from the sand. Can you even see that? She's like wearing a black shirt. The picture on the right is a close-up of the top of the side terrace overlooking the Tagus River. Yeah, it's hard to get an idea of the scale. We just have to go there in person, I think. There's the little, that was the side thing that's overlooking the river, the rounded part. And then inside of it are where they shot the cannons out to guard against the pirates. across the street is the Geronimos Monastery. You'll want to see its gorgeous cloisters, famous tombs held up by marble elephants, and a really nice royal coach museum filled with fancy horse-drawn carriages in its lower level. The Geronimos Monastery is a Manueline structure too, begun in 1501 and not completed for over 100 years. The structure is vastly longer than this image shows, but this is the most interesting section. It's located on the tidal beach of the river Tagus, where Vasco da Gama's ships made their triumphant return from India laden with treasures. Vasco da Gama's tomb is here, along with tombs of King Manuel and John III, who da Gama had served. This is the cloisters of the Geronimos Monastery. Again, these were all built the whole building was built between the 1500s and the 1600s, so a long time ago, but just beautiful. The cloisters have elaborately carved ornamentation. I would love to see a demonstration of how they did that carving into, is that limestone maybe, or I don't know what kind of stone that is, but it's just amazing they could do that. This is actually Vasco da Gama's tomb in Geronimos Monastery. And this piece of extravagance is from the Coaches Museum in Geronimos Monastery. It showcases the staggering wealth of a variety of European royal families. Each carriage inside is more magnificent than the other, showing how artisans went to extraordinary lengths to make their vehicles stand out. This is one of the most outlandish examples. These gilded figures sit at its back, above and between its two golden back wheels. I'd like a ride in that. Kind of like a Rolls Royce, right? This image is in the Baixa district. Trolleys have been a great way to get around Lisbon since the 1920s. In hillier regions, paired electric trolleys called funiculars are used. See another picture of them later. So funiculars is like a tracked trolley with the top electric line. It gives it power to go up those hills. I think I would definitely ride the trolley instead of trying to climb myself. It looks hard, doesn't it? Those really steep hills. Trolleys are ubiquitous everywhere, because they're a great way to get around town. A huge cataclysm in Lisbon's history was a horribly destructive earthquake in 1755 that leveled everything. 30,000 people died, and 2/3 of the city was flattened. This is a 1755 copper engraving showing Lisbon in flames and a tsunami overwhelming the ships in the harbor. The quake was felt as far away as Ireland. The tsunami waves crossed the Atlantic and struck the coast of Brazil, more than 4,500 miles away. The grandest buildings from the Golden Age of Portugal were built in the 15th century when Vasco da Gama and Magellan were making it a rich and powerful country. But of course, few of those remained standing following the 1755 earthquake. So every building you see in Lisbon today was built after 1755, most of them shortly after 1755. Their construction was very speedy and relatively inexpensive. The buildings are pretty uniform and almost identical looking. But wrought iron and tile sometimes decorate them, although that's about the only decorations you'll ever see on Lisbon's utilitarian buildings. Oops, I got the wrong label on there. That belongs somewhere else. That's supposed to say tiles, like that one. Those are azulejo tiles, a special kind of blue and white tiles called azulejos that often decorate Lisbon buildings. They're a popular way of enhancing the fronts of many buildings throughout Portugal. The idea actually came from China because in the 1500s, Portuguese sailors and merchants began trading with China, and the blue and white Chinese Ming ceramics they returned with became super popular and inspired the colors of Portugal's azulejo tiles. Azulejo tiles. Rua Augusta is the main street through Lisbon's lower district, the Baixa. The Baixa district has most of the hotels and restaurants and trolleys. It also has the elevator de Santa Justa, built in 1902 and still operational. The 7-story elevator was built to connect the lower town, Baixa district, with the Bairro Alto, high town district. From its look, you could maybe guess that it was designed by a student of Eiffel who designed the famous Paris Tower. Here's a little better view of the elevator's viewing platform. There's a charge, of course, to go up, and as with lots of things in Portugal, an additional charge to come down. But if you're in Lisbon, it'd be fun anyways. I just put these next few images in because they're such interesting structures. This is the Rocio train station. It was opened in 1891 and it's located in the center of the Baixa district. It's a commuter station. The trains take Lisbon folks to and from Sintra, about a 40-mile ride. And I just want to show you this beautiful Moorish-influenced entryway. See the statue on the pedestal right in the middle? It's a statue of King Sebastian. It's 126 years old, and it used to be right in the middle there, between the two entrance portals. But it's not there anymore. It was accidentally destroyed by a person who knocked it over climbing up for a photo. I know, isn't that just kills? So sad. I don't know if they put something different on the pedestal in its place or what. Maybe they will. Inside, the western wall of the train station shed has a series of tiled pictures that mix classical religious themes with modern views of Lisbon. Such a clean-looking station, isn't it? Yeah. And so much light. I think Chicago train stations could learn a lesson from Europe. We just don't know how to do it. Bairro Alto district of Lisbon is the high town. Bairro Alto. It's up in the Lisbon hills. It was laid out in the 1500s. Its trolley cars are reminiscent of San Francisco. The place reminds you of those rice and Roman commercials, right? Many Portuguese streets, not just here but everywhere, feature beautiful cobblestone designs in traditional Portuguese patterns. They actually have to get the patterns out of an old, I don't want to say a recipe book, but it's like a book of designs, and they're from whenever they were first created, those patterns. And if you want to make a new cobblestone street, you must make it according to one of the old patterns. The Castle of St. George in the Hightown area can be seen from nearly everywhere in Lisbon. As you could guess from looking at it, the structure was built by the Muslim Moors when they swept in from North Africa, and conquered this region in the 8th century. After Portugal conquered the Moors in the 12th century, the castle became a royal palace. No one lives there now, but the beautiful walkway around the top of the St. George Castle offers wonderful views of the city below and the ocean beyond. And just below the castle walls are the city's longtime sailors' quarters, the Alfama, which dates back over 1,000 years and runs from the castle down to the river. The Alfama district is characterized by tangled, narrow cobblestone streets and old buildings. And this area survived intact despite the 1755 earthquake and fires. This is the Barrio Alto district. It buzzes with thriving restaurants and diners and outdoor tables. Portuguese people tend to eat dinner about 8:30 at night, so if you go out to eat earlier than that, you generally won't have to wait long for a table. Just a good little tip to know if next time you go to Portugal. Fado music is a uniquely Portuguese tradition. It's nostalgic, sad folk ballads about death, love loss, and tragic romance accompanied by one or several guitars. The typical fado singer is a powerfully voiced woman, and they call her a fadista. Free performances are often held in restaurants to serenade diners. And then fado guitars are sort of pear-shaped with 10 or 12 strings. Additional instruments played by fado group musicians may have 6 or 8 strings, but they're always strummed wooden guitar-like instruments. Rick Steves calls fado music the Fisherman's Widow's Blues. Moving out from Lisbon, about an hour northwest of Lisbon is Sintra, and this is Sintra's quirky Pena Palace. It's the most famous castle in Portugal, due both to its colorful appearance and imposing location atop the highest hill above Sintra. In 1838, King Ferdinand II came into the possession of a former monastery called Our Lady of Pena, which had been built in 1511. And so King Ferdinand repaired it, refurbished it, and eventually added on by building a new wing called the New Palace with larger rooms. Then he built an adjacent fantasy castle with walls you can walk around on, battlements, watchtowers, an entrance tunnel, and even a drawbridge. So he kind of made like an architectural Disneyland. That idea of putting something imposing looking up on a high hilltop seems to be pretty universal throughout Portugal, maybe all of Europe. It looks really neat though, doesn't it? There's the entryway. And then driving about an hour northwest along the coast brings us to Nazaré. You can see on the map, it's above Sintra, but also on the coast. Nazaré's beach is a surfer's paradise. The next slide will show you why. This photo right here is taken in springtime, before most tourists have arrived. Yeah, Nazaré's huge surfing waves are just incredible. People come from all over the world to try them out. You'd have to be really brave to do that. I can't even imagine. A lot of people come to dance. Nazaré's beachfront dancers are traditionally dressed, and they often get together and do like demonstration dances for people from traditional folk dances. There's a closer look. Their outfits look completely mismatched to us, but the patterns and materials are specifically coordinated with each other, as you can kind of tell. Different tastes, right? This Nazaré woman is showing her skirt's many layers of petticoats. She's also wearing a woolen shawl and colorful socks. She's a very to choose at the top of the hill above Nazaire. To get there, you can ride up on a funicular. Like I mentioned earlier, funiculars are paired cable cars that carry people up and down steep hills. The cars are attached to a cable, one car at each end, and the cable wraps around a pulley at the top of the hill. So as one car rolls up the hill on its track, the other rolls down the hill on an adjacent track at the same speed, and they kind of counterbalance each other. There's a closer look at the funiculars that carry folks up and down the hill.
It's a little scary.
Yeah, really. Going up between the town of Nazaire and the hilltop town of Sisio, straight above it. This is Patala Monastery, a towering late Gothic structure with gorgeous stained glass windows and lots of flamboyant pinnacles. This image shows just part of it. The monastery was built to celebrate Portugal's victory in a battle against Spain. Batilla means battle, I guess. Construction started in 1388 and went on for more than 100 years. While it was being built, 7 different kings ruled the country. Construction finally ended in 1533. So from 1388 to the middle of the 1500s, they were building that thing. It's an ornate structure with fanciful gargoyles. Inside, sort of a different looking place. The ceilings are very tall and it has an air of solemn simplicity. I think you wouldn't expect that from looking at the outside. Just gorgeous. Batilla's monastery's adjacent cloister is built in the Manueline architectural style. It celebrates the sea. Artistically carved fishing images, ropes, nautical knots, shells, pearls, and beautiful lace-like embellishments are everywhere. It's another view of the monastery. Of the cloister inside the monastery. I guess if you're going to be a nun cloistered away, that'd be a nice place to spend your time, wouldn't it? An hour north of Batilia, 2 hours north of Lisbon, is the university town of Coimbra on the Mondego River. Established in Roman times, Coimbra was the capital of Portugal during Moorish times, and Coimbra is Portugal's Oxford and the country's easiest to enjoy city. They call it the country's Oxford because of this library, the Joanian Library, Coimbra's University Library. It's named for King John, who ordered its construction in 1717. It's a 3-story building, and 2 of them are underground. Inside are thousands of volumes about medicine, geography, history, humanist studies, science, law, philosophy, theology, all the things the students would have been studying more than 300 years ago. And wait till you see the insides. Many of the original books are still in these stacks. Researchers are still welcome to read them. Its decor is evidence of immense wealth. Reading tables are inlaid with exotic woods like ebony from Sri Lanka and rosewood from Brazil. And there are even silver inkwells on silver trays. Kind of like the Rolling Meadows Library, right? I just think it's amazing. The Joanian Library might be the most lavish library in the entire world. Tapering columns support shelves of 30,000 books and 5,000 manuscripts, and readers use ladders to get to books at the upper level. I imagine it's those rolling kind of ladders that you can shove around and climb them wherever you want. I've been in a library that has those. I can't remember where, someplace in England maybe. There's gilding everywhere you look, and the ceilings are decorated with murals painted with gold leaf from South America. Books published between the 15th and 19th century are still in good condition thanks to the characteristics of the building. With extra thick outside walls, a teak wood door, and wood-covered inside walls that absorb humidity, the space works like a vault for book conservation. Well, after all that immersion in culture and man-made extravagance, it's time to hit the road again. We're driving north and west to the Douro River Valley, 2 hours north of Coimbra. The Douro River Valley is the birthplace of port wine. The Douro River starts in Spain and runs west to Porto and the Atlantic Ocean just beyond. Its steep, twisty valleys and climate are ideal for growing grapes. Vineyards that produce port are called quintas. Many are open to visitors, offering tours and tastings. I should have put this little map earlier in the show, but you can see Porto is way high up on the coast there. It's the second largest city and gave Portugal and port wine their names. The city is at the intersection of the Douro River and the Atlantic Ocean. Port wine, as you can guess, is one of Portugal's biggest, most popular exports. Here you can see a flat-bottom Rabello boat, typical of those carrying wine barrels. They travel from Quinta vineyards inland to Porto's riverfront warehouses. The flat bottomed and the long rudder are both helpful on the twisty, sometimes very shallow Douro River. I don't think I've ever seen a boat with such a long rudder. And it's interesting that they can only fit like 6 kegs of wine on there. It's a lot of trips back and forth, right? The barrels are unloaded here at the warehouses. And inside, they are either aged in their own barrels or inside of a larger one, where the wine sometimes sets for years or even decades. Porto's gotten trendy and more tourist-friendly in the last few years. It's one of the oldest cities in Europe, filled with mosaic brickwork, pedways, and tons of people in peak tourist season. You can see the cobblestone street on the side there with the patterns. There's some colorful buildings on the Douro waterfront. And I think you can kind of tell from some of the blue ones have those azulejo tiles. Many building facades are covered with azulejo tiles in Porto. Beautiful church. Porto has a lot of blue tiled facades. And in the train station as well. Porto's São Bento train station, built in 1917, is covered in more than 20,000 azulejo tiles, depicting Portugal's royalty, wars, and transportation history. The tile pictures are made of many individual tiles combined, as you can tell from this image. The far south coastal region is called the Algarve. It's a popular tourist destination famous for its Moorish architecture and wide sandy beaches. But I'm running out of time, And you'll be able to learn more about this region of the country in many of our Portugal guidebooks. At the Rolling Meadows Library, you can find out more about the places we visited tonight by searching for Portugal books and movies. And of course, we have hundreds of books and movies and digital resources that'll all help you plan an adventure anywhere in the world. If there's anyone here who's unfamiliar with our online catalog or with discovering our holdings through your computer, please come see us in the reference department and we'll help you get started. Most of these books are on the table there, as well as the cookbooks I was mentioning earlier. With so many travel guides for each country, how do you decide what to choose? They'll all cover the basics, so take home several and use the ones that are most comfortable for you. Head left when you walk in the library and go to the 900s, or ask at the reference desk. That's where I sit. And you'll find a wealth of travel DVDs in our movie section too. Just turn to your right after you enter the library. My favorite travel DVDs are all the ones created by Rick Steves. And I think these two are both on the table too. There's a few shows about Portugal in each of them. So, I was going to switch to the actual internet, and I think Mike says I can do it. We'll try. But I can't, I'll have Mike do it. So, remind me how to go over to it. I go way over here.
Next slide.
Next slide, okay. Okay. Okay, this is actually the internet. Thank you very much, Mike. This is ricksteves.com, Europe. When you go to ricksteves.com, you can pretty much look for any country you're interested in. So I think I can use my mouse. Oh yeah. So say we want to find out about Portugal. We can click on Portugal and see what he's got to offer. This is actually his website, which you can, if you don't have a computer at home, you can get to it on our computers downstairs. You'll find out all about any place you want to go online. Here's like all the different places you can go to, the different things he offers, travel tips, listen to him, some of his shows, hear his lectures. So it's a rich trove of information. And then you could click on any particular place, like Porto, and you can tell where I got that picture, right? No matter what kind of library materials you'd like to find, investigate, or renew, you'll want to get the RML app. And when you do that, is go to our website. Do you have our library's app on your devices? With it, all of our resources are at your fingertips, and all of our digital resources are readable and borrowable wherever you are, whenever you want. So the way you do it is you can go to our website. This is ready now? We can go to our website. That's our homepage. And then you're going to scroll down to online resources. No? Oh, sorry, the new library app. Sorry. Brand new link here. New library app. It was down at the bottom of that list. And then you would get the app by just, if you have an Android phone or tablet, you would click the Google Play one. And if you have a Mac device, you would get yours from the App Store, but it'll be the same. I can, I'll click it and see what happens. So this is what it would look like. It would look similar with the Apple Store as well. And, then you would hit install, and with it, then you could do all kinds of fun things. Is it already on this computer? Or
No.
let me go back to the computer, I think. Let's see, I'll close this right now. Should I close this window too?
Nope. That's left. All the way.
Oh yeah, okay. So this is what it would actually look like once you put it on your device, your phone or whatever. It lets you access all kinds of resources at the library, and you can use it when you're online to download digital books and magazines to your phone. There's actually more magazines available digitally than what is available in print in the library. And then you can read what you've downloaded anytime, anywhere, even when you have no internet connection. And then when you are on Wi-Fi, you can use this app to renew, place holds, and download more. Here's a quick glimpse of how that would look. You would choose a category of what you want to look at, like either audiobooks or magazines or movies. Or you can click e-library, and that will get you to the different apps that are shown in the picture. Digital Library of Illinois, Canopy, Libby, and Hoopla. We can help you do this too if you ask at the reference desk. Hoopla is a streaming service that offers e-books, e-audiobooks, movies, music, and more for free with your library card and library PIN. There's never a wait, everything's available immediately, and everything you borrow returns automatically after the loan period ends. Canopy gives you access to thousands of movies, lots of documentaries, and Libby is ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines. We can work with you individually to help you find exactly what you need. I could probably go to Libby. Well, I don't want to mess things up, but if you go to Libby, then you can even go, there's a way you can see different movies on the Libby app as well, but it requires a login with your library card number. We have so many digital resources available to you. And these are also apps that are available with your Rolling Meadows Library account. You just need to know your library card number and your password to get them. And if you need help with that, again, just call us anytime. Anyone at the reference desk can help you, and we'd be happy to assist you. I'm going to try going back to, let's see if I can go back. Now, if I wanted to go back to our homepage, could I do it from here?
You've seen this 3 times already.
So I was going to show you one that's really neat called Mango Languages. These are alphabetical, so you have to scroll through a while to get to them, but there it is. So I'm opening an app called Mango Languages, and then I would have to put in my name and password. Maybe I won't go through all that, but I was just going to say you could even learn to speak Portuguese if you wanted to with the library app. Like I said, you just need to know your name, your password, and your library card number. This image shows just a small portion of the many reference resources available online at rmlib.org. There's Mango Languages up at the top there. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch recordings of the Rolling Meadows Library programs. You would just click on our website, you would click the YouTube button, the little white triangle in the red square, and then search for Rolling Meadows Library.
It goes right to the.
Should I do that? No. Okay. Mike says never mind. Here's another. Whoops. One of the other the resources we have is called A to Z World Travel. I guess it's a little bit cut off up there. A to Z World Food.com, and you can type in that you want to go or choose Portugal from the list. A to Z has several different options between travel, food, and languages, I think. And if you need help with any of our digital resources in any way, getting them, using them, understanding them, whatever, we can help you at the reference desk. Or just call us at our phone number, 847-659-6050. We can help you on the spot, or you can sign up for your own personal one-on-one tutorial. It's free, of course. Our technical librarian, Ian, will guide you through everything you need to know, answer all your questions, and help you accomplish your online library goals. Be sure to pick up one of our online library flyers over on the table as soon as I finish, which is actually right now. So that's all for tonight. Be sure to take a look at the books on the table and take home any of the papers there too. And help yourself to a drink and some chocolates. Thanks so much for coming. And if you know someone else who might enjoy a virtual trip to Portugal, they can watch a recording of tonight's show on our YouTube channel. And the link is on our homepage. Thanks again, you guys. You've been a great audience. I appreciate your applause and your coming.